The twin sons of Valara bathed the ceremonial courtyard in a crimson glow. Hundreds of alien nobles sat upon jeweled tiers, their skin painted with ritual oils that shimmered in the light. At the center stood Princess Kilira, daughter of the Valaran Empress. She was tall and radiant, scales of sapphire tracing along her cheekbones and arms, her golden eyes sharp as blades. Before her knelt the guest of honor, or rather the guest of ridicule, a human soldier named Marcus Hale. "Behold!" Kilira's voice rang across the courtyard, amplified by crystal orbs embedded in the walls. "The human who believes himself worthy of training among the Valaran Guard. A fragile creature of soft flesh and brittle bones. Shall we wager how many breaths he lasts?" Laughter rippled across the audience. The Valaran were a proud warrior race, their strength and speed honed over millennia of interstellar conquest. Humans were tolerated as traders and mercenaries in some sectors, but among the nobility of Valara, they were little more than curiosities. Marcus rose slowly, his eyes never leaving Kilira's. He wore only the standard training leathers, yet his posture radiated calm confidence. "I didn't come here to be laughed at, Princess. I came here to prove myself." The crowd hissed at his audacity. Kilira tilted her head, her smile sharp. "And if you fail, then you'll have your laugh," Marcus said evenly. The princess's eyes glimmered with mischief. "A bet then, human. Survive 3 rounds against my chosen champion, and I shall grant you a boon of your choosing. Fail, and you will kneel before me for all to see and admit your species is weak." The nobles erupted in approval. A spectacle was unfolding, one that would humiliate the strange, soft-skinned outsider. Marcus gave a single nod. "Deal." Middle. The champion chosen was a towering Valaran warrior named Thrivos. His armor gleamed obsidian black, and his arms bulged with muscle. He wielded a double-bladed spear, a weapon longer than Marcus was tall. The gong rang. Thrivos lunged with impossible speed. The spear sliced the air toward Marcus's chest, but at the last second the human rolled aside, dirt scraping his arms. The crowd gasped, not because Thrivos missed, but because Marcus moved with a reflexive sharpness they hadn't expected. Kilira's smile faltered slightly. Marcus rose, fists clenched. He didn't have alien speed nor monstrous strength, but what he had was discipline. Years of surviving Earth's death-world landscapes had sharpened his instincts. Humans had always been prey as much as predators, and in prey lay the gift of adaptation. The first round dragged longer than anyone predicted. Thrivos attacked again and again, but Marcus refused to break. He ducked, sidestepped, rolled, and when a strike grazed him, he used the pain to fuel his focus. At last, the gong sounded. First round survived. Kilira's golden eyes narrowed. The second round came harder. Thrivos was furious now, his spear whistling like a storm. Marcus countered with cunning rather than strength. He baited Thrivos into lunging, then kicked dirt into the alien's eyes. For a fleeting moment, the courtyard fell silent at the sight of a human daring to fight dirty before nobility. But it worked. Marcus bought enough time to evade until the second gong rang. The crowd murmured uneasily. Their laughter was fading. Kilira's tail flicked in irritation, though she tried to mask it behind a forced grin. "Not bad, human," she called. "But the third round will break you." The third began with no hesitation. Thrivos was unleashed, his fury terrible to behold. He swung with such force that the very ground cracked where the spear struck. Marcus was slowing, bruised, bleeding, exhausted. Yet every time he faltered, something primal inside him refused to quit. Human stubbornness, Kilira realized, was not weakness. It was terrifying resilience. At last, Thrivos cornered Marcus against the courtyard wall. The spear thrust forward like lightning. Marcus twisted, seizing the shaft with both hands. Muscles strained, bones creaked, but with a roar he wrenched it sideways, using Thrivos's own momentum against him. The giant stumbled, the spear burying into the stone instead of Marcus's chest. The gong thundered. Third round survived. The courtyard was silent. Marcus released the spear and stood tall, panting but unbroken. His eyes found Kilira's across the stunned crowd. "I believe I've won our bet, princess." For the first time in her life, Kilira felt her composure crack. 1,000 nobles were watching. To deny the wager would stain her honor. Slowly, deliberately, she descended the dais and approached the human. "You survived," she admitted, her voice low. Her pride burned, but beneath it was something else, a flicker of respect. Marcus's lips curled in a faint smile. "Then grant me my boon." The crowd leaned forward. What would the human demand? Wealth, title, his own ship. But Marcus simply said, "Train me. Personally." Shock rippled through the audience. For a human to demand the princess herself as teacher, it bordered on blasphemy. Kilira stared at him, torn between fury and fascination. But the bet bound her. She extended a clawed hand, sharp but trembling slightly. "Very well, human. You are mine to instruct." The court erupted with outrage and disbelief. But the bond was sealed. Ending. Weeks passed. Training began at dawn and ended at dusk. Kilira pushed Marcus to his limits, mocking him at every failure. Pathetic. Too slow. Too fragile. Yet every time he fell, Marcus rose again. He learned the flow of her people's combat, and in return, she learned the depths of his endurance. Where Valeran warriors relied on overwhelming power, Marcus adapted, analyzing, countering, enduring. Slowly, Kilira's scorn gave way to grudging admiration. One evening, after a brutal session beneath the twin suns, Kilira approached him as he sat catching his breath. "You humans," she murmured, sitting beside him. "You bend, you bleed, but you do not break. Thought you weak. But I was blind." Marcus glanced at her, sweat dripping from his brow. "And what do you see now?" Kilira's golden eyes lingered on him, softer than before. "A warrior. And perhaps my equal." The realization struck her harder than any battle. By her own wager she was bound, not just to teach him but in spirit. Her mockery had forged a bond neither expected. Months later, when Marcus stood victorious in the trials of the Valeran Guard, it was Kilira herself who placed the warrior's crest upon his chest. In front of the same nobles who once laughed at him, she declared, "By wager and by honor, the human Marcus Hale stands as one of us. And by my word as princess, he stands as mine." The crowd roared, not with laughter but with awe. Kilira's bet, meant as a cruel joke, had instead written her destiny. Bound forever by the choice she made, the alien princess no longer mocked the human. She stood at his side. Together, they became a legend whispered across the stars, the story of a princess and the stubborn human who refused to kneel.